Hello, students and YouTube. Let's get going on some humanities. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about philosophy. So you will need your notebooks for this. Go ahead and get your notebooks out. Set yourself up a Cornell Notes page with a margin that you can write your thoughts in, and then another side that you can put your the information that I give you in. So if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say Cornell Notes, refer back to my Cornell Notes presentation earlier. And go ahead and pause this, get your notebook set up, and then come back. So I'm going to set my timer. Hey, Siri, set a timer for 20 minutes.
Okay.
And then we're going to go about 20 minutes today, and then we'll wrap up. So I'm going to start off with this quote. You've already got your notebook set up. Go ahead and write this quote down. Pause anytime that you need to. I like this quote. You're a ghost driving a meat-coated skeleton made of stardust. What do you have to be afraid of? I like this quote. I can't remember where it popped up on a Facebook post. I don't know where it came from, but I like it. So take a few minutes and think about what this quote means. And over there on your left side of your Cornell Notes page, write that down. What do you think this means? Now, just to sort of stop a minute, I like pictures over there on your thinking side of your Cornell Notes page. So this would be a good time to think in pictures on your Cornell Notes side over there. What does this quote mean? While you're doing that, I'll just remind everybody to go down and click that like and subscribe. I'm a member of the YouTube generation. I'm a whippersnapper. What are you talking about? So you've finished your thinking. Feel free to pause this to think and then come back, turn right back on. You're a ghost driving a meat-coated skeleton made of stardust. When I think about what that quote means, I picture, this little entity that lives inside of my head and is just sort of driving me around like my body is some sort of vehicle that transports my consciousness. That's one way of viewing your existence, that you are indeed this entity that exists separate from your physical self. Take a minute and think about when you picture yourself, when you think about who I am, who is I? Where am I? Feel free to pause and think a little bit there. When you think about what it is that makes me, what is that? What is it that defines a person's humanity? What is it that makes a person themselves? What is it that makes a person, present in the world around them? What is it that makes you unique? All of those questions are questions that we hope to answer in the humanities. I'll get to that here in just a minute, but I'm just going to ask you a few more questions about this. So when you say, would you say, I have a body? Or would you say, I am a body? Would you say I have a body, or would you say I am a body? And if you, and depending on how you answer that question, it really affects how you view your interaction with the world around you. If you say, I have a body, you're thinking of yourself as some sort of pilot that is driving around this vehicle. If you say, I am a body, you are thinking that you are the sum total of the experiences and senses that you encounter through interacting with the world around you. I am a body, I have a body. So when you ask yourself, who am I and where am I? you may think about your physical self or you may think about your mental self. Then you can get to more sort of esoteric philosophical questions like, where is the seat of who I am? Is it here in my head? Am I the sum total of the neurons firing in my brain? Possibly. But, when you feel things, when you feel sorrow or sadness or happiness or anger or joy, do you feel those things necessarily in your brain, or do you feel them more in the core of who you are? And then the question becomes, are you a series of thoughts, or are you a series of thoughts plus emotional sensation? So if you have a body and you are some sort of little pilot that looks out of your eyeballs and drives your body around, you're distancing yourself from all the visceral things that exist in the world around you. You're sort of this floating above it kind of a thing. If you say, I am a body, you are thinking of yourself more of a tactile, responsive being that lives in connection with the world around him. So, to define where you are and where you stop, that's a hard thing to do. And then that doesn't even get into the idea of a soul, some sort of spiritual part of yourself that exists separate from the physical, which is a whole nother idea of thought that we will explore a little later on when we talk about religion and man's relationship with God and the universe and etc. So all of these great, interesting questions are the humanities. If you think of yourself as as a person, where do you stop and start? So if you say, I have a soul, that I have some sort of part of myself that is separate and different than the physical or the mental or the emotional part of yourself, if there is a spiritual side of yourself, where does that spiritual form reside? By the way, I'm asking a lot of questions, talking a lot. Don't forget to be taking notes, and don't forget to be thinking on the left side of your Cornell Notes page. Where does that spiritual self exist? What part of you is that spiritual self? So if you think about, who am I? Where am I? What part of me is me, and what part of me is not me? Then there you go. So if I were to eventually get out of the house during the quarantine times, and I'm in I like to ride a motorcycle. If I'm in a motorcycle accident and I lose both of my legs in a motorcycle accident, what part of myself have I lost? Have I lost something essential to what makes me, me? What part of your body, what part of your physical self contains your emotional self? What part of your physical self contains your spiritual self? Your legs, your arms. If I have my gallbladder removed, if I have a heart transplant, if any number of these questions, can they then define who you are, where you exist? So you're a ghost driving a meat-coated skeleton made of stardust. It's I like that quote. I really do. It's whimsical and charming, but it's also pretty deep. And that's the best kind of stuff. So all of those questions that I've been posing to you quickly over the past few minutes, those are questions that the humanities try to answer. So there's lots of, and when you go to school, you receive information from lots of different sources. The humanities is just one. And the humanities asks a different set of questions than the sciences do, than math does. So we human beings, we express ourselves in different ways. We tell stories, we dance, we sing, we draw, we paint, we go to the movies, we read books, we laugh at comedians. That's part of our nature. That's who we are. That's what humans do. So what we want to do is we want to try to explain that experience. We want to explain that emotional state, that intellectual, that ethereal state that humans have and live in. And sometimes you just can't express those answers in math or science or history. All of those are great ways to explain things, but that's not the only way to explain things. So human beings are human, and we are creatures of emotion and creatures of habit and creatures of deep thought. That's what makes us who we are. So what we're going to try to do in this class, the humanities, is to think about the ways, some of the ways that human beings express their relationship to the world around them. So so those are the questions that we're going to try to ask, and that's the purpose of our class. So for us, I'll kind of explain. All this stuff goes in your notes. Feel free to pause and write this down, and click back on when you're ready. For the purposes of this class, here's what we're going to do. We're going to define the humanities in a very narrow way. So for us, we're going to talk about dance, music, and the visual arts. I will also go into theater. However, theater is covered in your English classes. So I'm just going to touch theater a bit. But I'm going to leave the mechanics of theater and plays and that sort of thing to English. We'll talk about theater a bit. There are other branches of the humanities. Philosophy is a branch of the humanities. I'll touch it a little bit. Literature is a branch of the humanities. English does that, your English classes, so I'll touch it, but just a smidgen. Ethics, language, culture, linguistics, law, all of those things are the humanities. And all of those disciplines have been put into different subject areas. So, your history, your social studies classes will cover, law and justice and et cetera. Your language classes might talk about culture and and different ways that human beings function in language. So for us, the humanities, we're going to sort of zero in on a very specific kind of a thing: music, dance, and the visual arts. And that is huge. So there is no possible way that we will be able to cover the history of all music in this half semester class between now and Christmas. Can't be done. There's no possible way we could cover all of sculpture and painting and architecture and jewelry and costume, and there's just no possible way we can cover it all. There's no possible way that we could talk about the history of dance and the evolution of dance and all the dance. There's no way we can do all of any one of those things in just the short time that we have. So we're going to be very sort of broadly talking about that. Where's my timer? Oh yeah, good. We're going to very sort of broadly be talking about these things. And what I would like to do is to give you just sort of an overview of dance, music, and visual arts, and do my best to give you really an appreciation, just like the title of this class is History and Appreciation. There's no way that we could cover all of that material. It's too much. So I just want to give you the highlights, just touch the surface, give you a basic understanding of those ideas, ask you some questions, ask you really to think about how you feel about these art forms, what you think, what you see, what you experience when you listen to this music versus this music, see this dance, view this sculpture. So, I really want to ask you what you think about those. We got to take tests. Boo. I just assume not take a test, especially on this format. I don't know. I would like to talk to you in person about these and ask you questions and interact with you about these topics. Hope maybe we can figure out a way to do that. But for now, this is how we're going to roll. So this will be where I end, and then we'll go and we'll sort of leave off today. You've probably, being the whippersnappers that you are, you've probably all seen the movie Hercules, the Disney movie Hercules. And in the movie Hercules, these characters that you see on the screen are the muses. So in Greek mythology, the arts are gifts from the gods. So, and there's a bunch of the different muses. You can see them down there, and I'll have to lean forward to read my screen without my glasses. Calliope, Clio, Erato, Euterpe. All of those beings are the muses. And what they are is they are messengers. They're divine messengers from the gods to humanity. And when the Greeks made art, they were channeling the power of the gods. Creation is a godlike power. So if you are an artist and you are creating, you are doing something really special. So the Greeks believed that it was so special that it had to be a divine gift. And these muses that you see that narrate the story of Hercules, they are the messengers, the bringer of art to humanity. So the idea that I'll kind of wrap up with here today is the idea that the humanities are something special. Dance, music, literature, all of the humanities that you can kind of see listed below. These are special things. These are things that are set different than just your intellectual capacity, your ability to add and subtract and to do the mental gymnastics that human beings are amazingly equipped to do. So I'm not trying to diminish those things, those intellectual pursuits, math and science, and but the idea that you are able to create something new from nothing, that's important. And that's an important part of what it is to be human. It's important. So our goals are to study just those few narrow things, the visual and performing arts. And I will try to make that interesting for you. I'll do my best. We'll see how it goes on the old computer vision here, and we'll go from that. So we'll finish up here. You can write this in your notes, and this will be the last thing. I've got a minute and 27 seconds left. So you could just copy this down. This is sort of the definition of what we're going to be talking about, the humanities. Studies intended to provide general knowledge and intellectual skills rather than occupational professional skills. So, when you go to Toyota and apply for a job there, they probably will not ask you about your knowledge of dance. They probably won't. But it doesn't mean that your knowledge of dance is not an important thing to know. So we'll wrap this up, put that in your notes, and then when we come back again, we'll pick up right here with the humanities as a study of intellectual skills and not occupational or professional skills. Hey, listen, stay healthy out there, be safe, wear a mask. If you are, especially if you have older relatives, and by older, I guess, somebody my age, that kind of starts getting into the tricky zone there. So, when you come back to school and see me, I want you healthy so that you don't make me sick as well. So, okay, I guess we're going to wrap things up here, and we'll see you next time. There it is. Wrong button.